Welcome, everyone, to the wrap up. Today is October 3rd, 2024. Before we dive into today's topics, take a moment to click that repost button and follow us here on X if you haven't already. It helps a ton and ensures that you don't miss any of our upcoming content.
And remember, what you hear in this podcast is just our opinion and not professional financial advice. We're not experts. If you need specific advice, please ask someone who's a professional in that area. Remember, listen at your own risk and always double check before making decisions based upon what we talk about. Sage, mic's yours, man.
Mic is mine. I'm actually not using a mic today, so that's just, a metaphor, I guess. Yeah, doing good. Sorry about the cancellation last week. Been under the weather, recovering day by day. How are you doing, Eth? Good?
I'm actually going under the weather now, but that's okay. I'm going to pull it out, you know, keep it strong the best I can.
KEEZ team is like a ship riding the ocean, just under and over all the time.
Sure. I don't know if you can hear my other screen just going off in the background too, but it's all good.
That's all right. All right. We'll roll into our first topic here, which is the CV Summit. This past week in Zug, Switzerland, was the CV Summit titled OGs on a Decade of Decentralized Innovation. Featured on this panel was, now bear with me with some of these names, Nicola Stajanau, probably butchering that, chairman of the Eternity Foundation. We're going to roll with that. We also have Wolfgang Amadeus Vital, the crypto protocol expert at Credit Suisse. Charles Hoskinson, former Ethereum Foundation CEO, founder of Cardano, current founder of IOHK, a blockchain research and engineering company, as well as Fabian Vogelsteller, author of the ERC20, founder of LUKSO. This panel packs quite the punch. It would be a shame if a recording is not released. Fortunately enough, the CV Summit's LinkedIn posted some takeaways for us from the panel that happened last Wednesday. Went out of my way to post some of those takeaways here. Charles Hoskinson shared the upcoming launch of a privacy-focused solution designed to address data security issues around trust specifically. Charles also stressed the need for better privacy tools, especially as large companies remain skeptical about putting sensitive information onto public blockchains. Nicola highlighted the importance of identity in decentralized systems, especially for voting mechanisms. He pointed to the development of hyperchains and token-gated rooms where users can freely exchange information, all while maintaining full control over their identity and privacy. Love that. Would love to hear the expanded version of that. Fabian, on a similar note, emphasized that the term mass adoption is often overused. While many users transfer money between exchanges, true adoption will only happen when we address key standards and identity issues. He introduced the concept of the universal profile, self-sovereign accounts where individuals truly own and control their data across multiple blockchains. It's great to see Fabian on these type of panels. This is my favorite setting to see him in, where he's sitting next to fellow OGs that really get the movement that him and these guys and so many others are really pushing behind. Now, from this summit, we're going to climb down the mountains a little bit for our next guest, as their legs are much too small to make it up any form of summit. Moo Deng, the LUKSO team, actually made it happen. We saw a lot of claims across the Twitter sphere for people recognizing that some of the next events in Bangkok were near Moodeng. So the LUKSO team went out of their way to organize this little field trip to go see this famous baby hippo. The event is partnered with a couple of interesting teams, including some well-acquainted partners like Friends with Benefits, who seems to do every event with us as of late. So far, there's about 100 signups for the event, which is great because all of those signups need to have universal profiles, right? So it's 100 universal profiles, whether new or already had it prior to this. Still good to see. For those of you who don't know, Moodeng, she's a baby hippo who's taken the world by storm. Thousands of tweets, a bunch of memes a day, pictures all over the place, crazy demand at the zoo. Essentially kind of like a Shamu Harambe type figure at this point. Now, this event most likely won't amount to a whole lot of LUKSO adoption. However, I commend the effort for a couple different reasons. The social listening, I would argue this is probably the most social listening that the LUKSO team has done in a long time. Being able to act quickly with speed upon that social listening and get an event that people are asking for and has some sort of demand. And the demand is also outside of our direct circle, reaching into different pools of people, finding common goals that will unite people to come and make it up, which is ultimately, again, as if you want to go on this field trip, you got to make it up. So whether it was 20, 30, or all 100 of those people that made a universal profile in order to sign up for this, that is new ups on the LUKSO blockchain, ready to have fun with us. I mean, personally, this is the second most jealous I've been about missing an event. The first was when we were at the LUKSO event in Istanbul, and someone came running in, yelling about David Blaine being next door. And I remember being in there with Ethelorian and Alts and some of the guys, and almost immediately running out and trying to go find David Blaine doing some street magic. Wasn't able to find him, unfortunately, but I'm sure you remember that there, Eth.
Yeah, I remember that. I turned around. I was talking to someone at a table and like half the room was gone. I was like, where did everybody go? And then I wandered outside to find out that David Blaine had just escaped my let's call it my field of vision. But that's okay. I still wandered into whatever the hell was going on in that Soho house. That was an insane. I don't know. I don't even think my words can do it justice. So I won't even try to describe it. But that was a scene. That's all I'll say. People in Turkey are wild.
Yeah, David Blaine was over there freaking people's minds for sure.
No, it's Chris Angel. He's a mind freak.
Oh, right.
All right, I'll take this. Okay, so I've got an editorial section here. It's always nice when I can get an interview, but we haven't been able to grab somebody who's been willing to come on and chat with us lately. So I figure here is an editorial section, something that's kind of important, that has come up recently that I think is I don't know, something that I want to talk about. So I'm going to scooch this way. So I'm actually on the camera because I'm a little bit off right now. But this editorial section, you can see we've got a pinned tweet from Nader Dabbit. This editorial was actually inspired by this pinned tweet. It was sent to me by Rob earlier in the week because Jean Caballero, the smart contract lead at LUKSO, had replied to one of Nader's tweets that actually extended upon the Substack article that is linked in this pinned tweet. If you don't know Nader is one of the most influential DevRels in the industry for Web3, but he actually started outside of Web3. And honestly, he's probably one of the best in the business. After reading this Substack post, which is from 2022, I was actually left reflecting on the LUKSO community and where we're at right now. So I'm going to actually dig into this a little bit. Like the first image I have here is just a slide from an image actually from the Substack article. And you can see on this image, it just says to understand the importance of developer communities, you must understand the network effects. Now, developer communities are obviously the focus of this article. If you go and read it, this little editorial that I'm giving now actually extends outside of developer communities, but to our entire community. But just so you know where we're coming from, Nader in his article here, this is going to be a full direct quote. I will not editorialize at all. Says network effect. It's a phenomenon whereby a product or service gains additional value as more people use it. The direct quote from Nader: in software, and particularly in open source, the value of an ecosystem continues to grow stronger and stronger as more developers build within it. A good analogy would be a popular ingredient like sriracha hot sauce entering the market that becomes so popular that everyone starts creating recipes based upon that brand itself, using it as a core building block. A new, better hot sauce could enter the market, but everyone knows and trusts the older brand, and there are thousands of recipes who call it out specifically with dishes even named after it. It is hard to compete once a brand has achieved this market saturation. We often see superior software products enter the market while remaining unable to gain market share in their category due to the fact that they have no interoperability with everything else that has been integrated with an older and what can be considered inferior product, but one with a larger and more mature developer ecosystem. So Nader asks at the beginning of this article, how do you bootstrap a strong and resilient ecosystem and do it as quickly as possible. Like, how do you create this ecosystem flywheel? Okay. So now, after all those direct quotes, I'm going to expand a little further here. Inside of that article, Nader actually says one of the most influential talks early in his career that he ever saw was from a 2015 conference. It was a keynote address from an Angular framework conference in Las Vegas. The speaker was Aaron Frost. And Aaron Frost actually delivers a pretty powerful message about building bridges using the poem The Bridge Builder by Will Allen Dromgoole as the vehicle. Now, I'm not going to read the poem here, but I'll give you a quick synopsis. Okay. In The Bridge Builder by Dromgoole, he tells a story of an old man who, after crossing a difficult chasm, think like a big, wide canyon, at the end of his journey, decides to build a bridge so others may safely cross after him. When questioned about why he might take the time to do this, knowing he would never need the bridge himself, the old man explains that he's building it for a young traveler who will face the same challenge. The poem emphasizes, right, the selflessness and the responsibility to help future generations and the lasting impact of our actions. In his talk, Aaron actually does a great job connecting with the audience. And he actually asked this full room of developers standing in front of him questions like, could any of you build the Angular framework today? Now, if you don't know what the Angular framework is, it doesn't matter if you're non-technical. What this means is, could you have built this product that we're all using? And it's a room filled with people whose careers depend upon it. And like nobody's hands go up. And he does discount a couple of the core devs that are on the Angular team. He's like, besides you guys, could anybody else build this thing? Nobody's hands goes up. And he's like, he gets into, what does it mean to build bridges? What does it mean to help the younger generations? And younger doesn't mean by age. Younger can even mean in experience, right? Younger just means anyone who might be on the other side of the chasm that has yet to cross. And let's relate this to LUKSO now. In LUKSO, oftentimes we have this situation where we are clamoring for someone to do something, right? We're asking the team, when marketing, we're asking the team, like, when are you going to launch this product? There's a lot of noise that goes out from the community back to a core group of people that is very small that are working. And that's like a one-to-many delivery model of information. Let's think of it as like, we're on one side of the chasm and we see, even if it's not real, but we almost idealize that the team has crossed to the other side of this chasm, and we're asking them to build a bridge back to help us all cross. And we believe that somehow that's going to help us. Now, if you're listening to my words and you go, you're damn right, I hope they build a bridge. Well, that's true. We do need bridges out, but I'm not talking about a bridge to another EVM at the moment. What I'm talking about is the opportunity for any person in a decentralized ecosystem to get involved. Now, keeping this graphic on the screen, in this one-to-many communication model, you can see you have one node that is dispersing out the information, and then the nodes on the outside all feel isolated. And they feel isolated because you sit at the end of kind of this one way. And again, I might be mincing the original metaphor here, but bridge, you're basically on a useless bridge that goes nowhere from you. LUKSO is giving us information. Someone like a Jean Caballero, even, who's doing a great job on his socials, sharing really the power of LUKSO through documentation, through example. When he shares it out to the community, if we don't work on building bridges out from us, right, we are, again, just kind of a locked node. Now look at that many-to-many environment. Fabian long ago is quoted as saying that speculators are literally the least interesting participant in crypto, that they'll be here for when numbers go up, and I'm paraphrasing, but they'll leave as soon as that phase is over. And honestly, if you look at our community, haven't we suffered enough with this type of mentality? There's so many people asking when, and I'm now imploring for us to just do. We need to be a community of doers, each doing something to further this project and the awareness of it. In fact, at this moment, just stop searching for the signal. Stop, pinging your friends and being like, how are you feeling? Be the signal yourself. If you have the capacity, stop waiting for others to build bridges and just build them yourself. Look at how many more connections we have if we all go out and try to touch somebody, right? Don't wait lazily for others to build the bridge, but instead get your hands dirty and participate in the many, many ways that are possible out there. You find your own approach. For some people, it's going to be sharing the mission of LUKSO on social medias. For others, it might be building a protocol. It might be ... I don't know what your expertise is, but all of you have individual expertise. Go out and use it, right? Be a doer. That brings us to something I want to share here at the end of this kind of editorial. We've come together, a group of us, to start the LBA. What's the LBA? It's a name, a placeholder. We could probably come up with a sexier name for it, but right now it's called the LUKSO Builders Association. It's an organization that's completely organic, and it's really focused solely on bridge building at the moment. You don't have to participate in this organization. There's lots of people who might come across this video that might be skeptical and say, I don't want to work, quote unquote, for my bags. And to you, I would say, what the hell do you think a decentralized ecosystem does, right? If you were expecting someone else to do it, wouldn't you be trading a security? That's not what we're here for. We're here to change the world. We're here to make it a better place. If you want to participate with the LBA, what we're trying to do is get together and onboard people by building bridges to the LUKSO ecosystem. Now, that doesn't mean financial bridges necessarily, but that means bridges to knowledge, bridges to activities, bridges to events. Right now, we're focused on trying to put together a hacker house in Denver for the ETH Denver conference, where we can get together and really focus on using the LSPs in a functional way, and onboarding new developers to the ecosystem, because again, the team can go out and do it, but if we can add 15 community members that'll come together around this as well, who will get out there and talk to developers and actively work together, that is going to build a powerful network effect. Again, getting back to that idea of network effect. Every day I see more people doing things in the ecosystem. Here is a transparent way for you to get involved. You can find the LBA. It's a public GitHub repo. The notes are in there. You can see what we talk about. If you'd like to get involved in planning events, like I just said, the ETH Denver Hackathon, we're also looking at potentially an activation in Berlin for later on in 2025. We need to start coming together as a community. We need to start moving the flywheel, right? The flywheel currently is not moving very fast, and it's going to take a lot of energy from people to get it moving forward. And once that flywheel starts to turn, there's going to be a lot of energy in it, and that energy will take care of itself, right? It'll propel this ecosystem, right? It'll be the engine that'll move us forward. But I chose to talk about this today to you all because this is probably the single most important thing that we can do as a community is at the moment, is to work on being bridge builders. And bridge builders meaning take your hard work and selflessly give it as part of your legacy so that others may gain entry to the land that you are in now, right? Even if they don't have an ability at the moment, because then they'll come across and they'll build new bridges that maybe you can benefit from in the future. Please, please, please just take my words and do your best to contribute to this ecosystem in any way possible. Be a doer. And on that note, I'm going to turn it back to Sage, who's got some notes on Jean's workshop.
Be a doer. Amen. John, being a huge doer. Quick shout out to about the LBA. We also have a Twitter. It's called at LUKSO Builders Association. We haven't posted on it in quite a while, but surely that'll heat up as that event gets closer and we have more information to share. So you can also check that out for some more information as well. But yes, about being doers, Jean, you mentioned him earlier, Eth. He's a huge doer, and he's out there in Vietnam right now, just doing it on a daily basis. And it's great to see. So Jean Caballero, the smart contract lead at LUKSO, hosted a workshop on universal profiles in Vietnam. At this event, attendees were able to learn how to create, use, and explore universal profiles, mint NFTs for free, and make transactions without paying gas, and discover DApps on LUKSO so you can use your profile after the workshop at home. Great to see there. He also hosted this Blockchain 101 workshop, the introduction to public key cryptography and digital signatures. The goal of this workshop was to give an introduction to public key cryptography in a user-friendly manner, using color theories and mixing and all the fun ways that John loves to relay these complex code topics. That one being much less LUKSO focused, but this is good, right? We want people that are interested in topics like key cryptography and digital signatures to come along and be interested in John's talk and slowly be pink-pilled, right? This is ultimately how we work to expand the echo chamber, and this is how we reach out to knowledgeable devs and gain the valuable community members that we're looking for, right? It can't just always be telling people about how great the LSPs are. Sometimes you got to take a secondary route, which John is doing a great job here. So great work, John. Jean. Chuck Norris approves, as always. And this brings me into another little segment here. Thanks to Jean, we're going to do, for those of you who have been around watching the wrap up for a while, a little bit of Speculation Nation here, which used to be Alt Anonymous's section, on a tweet that Jean put up, or a comment, I should say. Now, I don't love to speculate. However, I'd love to speculate on this because it is something that us at KEEZ, and me in particular, has been waiting for so long. So Jean made this comment. It was on a post about the LUKSO Key Manager LSP, and he mentioned in that post, how this LSP is much more powerful than people give it credit for. He then hinted at the idea that the current DevRel at LUKSO is working on a D app that works towards powering DAOs with the Key Manager. Now, this concept was the concept that we originally built our hackathon project on the KEEZ team back in, that was like 2022, maybe 2021, the original KEEZ hackathon project, KEEZ protocol. That was all about key managed DAOs. This is a topic that Fabian brings up all the time. You've seen it mentioned around a lot. So this DevRel that people might not have really heard about much around LUKSO, he keeps kind of to himself. But apparently he's working on it, and I am looking forward to hearing more. I feel like the Charlie and the Chalk Factory meme here. But yeah, as we transition out of that, hopefully we get to hear more from them. But right now, you're going to hear a little bit more from our 8-armed friend, Alt Anonymous.
What's good, fam? Hope everyone's doing well. Just wanted to give you a quick LUKSO ecosystem vibe check, and Fabian was active in Telegram. For those of you who missed it, wanted to give you a quick overview of what he said. Fabian was active in the LUKSO Telegram as the reply guy, which we always love to see. Appreciate that, Fabian. Thanks for the words. So I wanted to highlight some of the messages here. This first one talks about price. Obviously, you can't make the number magically go up. But he believes once universal profiles are more accessible through the mobile app and the in-browser way to create and use a profile, well, that's going to really kind of amp things up, as he kind of alludes to here, introducing the grid, more use cases for non-crypto users, which is where we're really going to see that ultimate growth and mass adoption, as it were. Here, someone was asking about the original investors and how the mechanics of that work. Fabian explains that they had to sign a purchase agreement and waited for 3 years and then received their licks, which of course they can do whatever they want, just like you can. He doesn't think many of them are selling. In fact, most of the big ones haven't sold a single one so far. So that's always good to hear. But we cannot know for sure. Obviously, it's impossible to solely track in that situation. And just because someone moves things around doesn't necessarily mean they're setting it up to sell them. And he goes on to explain a bit further. He doesn't think many of them sold, but there's pressure on the market for sure that we can all agree on. But ultimately, the buy pressure is going to come from real users, right, and real use cases, and that's exactly what they're working on. So the focus should be on, attracting builders and supporting them however we can, because, as the old adage goes, if you build it, they will come. Now, of course, there was some community pressure, about the price, complaining and stuff, and trying to ask more questions than usual when the coin's not performing. That's nothing new in Web3. But Fabian says you guys need to be aware that what we have at LUKSO is fundamentally better than any other blockchain project out there right now. And he's talking to a lot of people, and everyone agrees with him. He just did a panel with some OGs and Hoskinson. And of course, we know Fabian is completely plugged in, and he's been there since the early days of Ethereum and seen that evolve and kind of knows where it's going. But he says for the rest of them to, to truly understand this, They need to see it, and that's, need to use it, and that's what they're ultimately working on to make it accessible and understandable. And then once we have that, which is coming, the pieces are falling into place right now, things will be radically different. So to sum that up, Fabian says, thank you. We have the right tech, but we need it to be more accessible, and that's exactly what they're working on. All right, the mobile app, if you haven't noticed, is at 93% the last time they updated it on the roadmap, and he says that it's already been submitted to the App Store, and anyone who's gone through that process, it does take a bit of time to sit there and wait for Apple to approve it, but he hopes that it's going to be launching here in October, which would be awesome. Someone asked about the marketing, and he said it's not super useful to do, in the current NFT space without being able to showcase what it's truly capable of. That's when you do the real push, and that I actually agree with. He says on top of that, it's important to do things beyond just creating NFTs and trading tokens, which is all we've seen, in Web3 up to this point. And even comparing LUKSO to other chains, right now it might look similar, but what's under the hood, is this infrastructure that allows for completely new creative things that are impossible to even do on other chains. And that's why it's important to get builders and creators in here now so we can really start, showcasing what LUKSO can do. I know a lot of people have been curious about this, wondering about the advisors. And he says their contract was for 2 years, which has since ended, but they do hold their licks and are incentivized enough to help in their own ways with their communities, So obviously no legal obligation, but financial, sure. But also to this topic, he says it's clear to understand that specifically fashion advisors, for instance, they can only be really helpful if the tools are fully usable, for non-tech people. So it comes down to making it accessible and understandable of, why things are so powerful. Someone was concerned about, level of competition. And Fabian says, what we've built here is the most generic smart contract standards that work holistically together. Like there's no blockchain that takes this approach, and they're all trying to be better in the consensus level, which mostly means that they are less decentralized. And this is what makes LUKSO so special, is it has this, functional foundation set up to be able to thrive, into perpetuity. And we get this question a lot too. Can someone just take, universal profiles and copy them? It's a yes and no answer. Yes, they could. But what would be the point when you have 1% of the functionality, right? You need to be on LUKSO with those LSP standards to reach its full potential. We're going to see that too when we drop universal profiles on Ethereum. People will be like, oh man, this is super cool. This is awesome. It does this, this, and this. And it's like, wait, but this is only a small piece of the puzzle. We need to go to LUKSO to really see what these bad boys can do. Someone even asked him how he can remain so confident, through these answers. He says, because he's built and standardized the foundations of Ethereum as we know it and understands them very well, through and through. And it's hard, for the average person to be able to just look at two cars and tell which one's electric and which one's gasoline, for instance. And I love this analogy that he actually used here, talking about fundamentally the technology is what's really important. He said it's basically like complaining in 2013 that Teslas aren't everywhere. Like, you suck, Tesla, you're not everywhere. But it's like, no, they were just early, right? But they were developing and building out this huge infrastructure of chargers and networks and computing power and all these other things that plug into this ecosystem. And that's exactly what LUKSO is doing right now as well, laying the groundwork for the future. Someone asked about having market makers for LUKSO and on the LIX markets. And Fabian actually says, we do have market makers for the LIX markets, but they just don't wash trade or manipulate the market because that's illegal. So Gary Gensler, if you're listening to this, leave us alone. And then to wrap it up, he says he wants to thank all of the positive comments and encouragement out there. So yeah, big shout to the good vibes peeps, and always wants to be thankful for the suggestions and ideas, and that he is listening and they are taking things into account, for input. But also be aware that the team is small and they're doing what they can to, put processes in place. It just takes time. Development takes time, right? And they're constantly working. If you've ever seen them behind the scenes, they are grinding machines. So the best thing we can do is just continue to support them. And he says the team is focused on, developing the technology and making it available and accessible, and constantly working on education and communication around that technology, right? And he says, so can you. So yeah, of course, us as a community, we can continue to do our part, to help educate, elucidate, illuminate, do everything, pour one out for those who capitulate, just do our part as well, on the community side, and support this amazing team that we have here at LUKSO. So thanks for taking the time, Fabian. Always appreciate your reply guy status. We appreciate you guys. And yeah, back to you, Sage.
love that little segment there. It's always good to get that. People don't have time to sit around in the chats and read all that info. So a nice little synopsis there is nice. Has me feeling bullish. Definitely soothing some of my woes. Eth, you got any comments on all the segment there?
I mean, so Fabian, let's say Fabian is just telling people, be a doer. I mean, that's what he's saying. Like, there's no other way around it. It's a decentralized ecosystem. If you're going to sit on your hands and wait, it's going to be a long wait. If you want to get into the action and do things, time's going to go a lot faster, and there's going to be a lot more to do. Period.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to give this a little wrap up here. Thanks, everyone, for listening. If you're looking for more KEEZ content, check out our Sunday newsletters where we cover all the need-to-know info from the past week in LUKSO. Live in our Common Ground and streaming on X. We have lightning talks on Tuesdays, which are a collection of 5-minute presentations from LUKSO community members. On our site, you can catch blog posts from myself. And every Monday, we have medium rare with beef. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another one. Make sure to stay tuned to our Twitter too. I've been sick for the last couple weeks, so we've been a little spotty on some of those shows, but we always make sure to keep everything updated on our X account. Eth, anything to add before we jump off here?
Nope, you said it all. I'll see everybody next week.
Sweet. See you later, Roll Tigers.